You say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave with what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. Just want to see you. I just want.
Welcome to Write with Courage. I am Victoria Sullivan.
And I'm Brittany Ping.
Brittany Ping tells me that she's gone hiking today with her children because it's
Yeah.
school vacation. And I look over and she's in a dress. She's
Yeah.
hiking in a dress.
I got shorts on underneath. We're fine.
Brittany.
There was only 2 ticks that I found so far. We're doing great.
That's why I asked where you went, because Bear Brook, every time that the kids went to Bear Brook for a field trip, they came back covered in ticks. So it was one time when the girls in my drama club, I saw
I'm already heebie-jeebie when I just redid my hair and I was like,
I took one off of Lucky the other day.
oh my gosh, my dog gaslit me. I didn't send any pictures. I was like, Victoria, send these pictures. We had to go to the urgent vet 2 times. There was blood in his urine, but both of his urinalysis came back fine. So they were like, he's got a clean bill of health. And so now I just get to watch my dog.
Any chance you got into something with food dyes in it?
No.
That's weird.
Like, it could be a kidney stone and he's going to pass it naturally. It could be that it just, like, he likes the cat. We play a lot of fetch, ball, frisbee. Could have just been like an impact from falling, but like he didn't fall anytime. Anyway.
We took my
2
dog
times.
to my husband's cousin's
Gross.
house once, and he was running around with, they had German Shepherd dogs, and my dog's small, and he was running around trying to keep up. And then I noticed like his belly was all discolored. And I thought, like, did he hurt himself? Did he, like, by running so much, did he have, like, internal bleeding? I was freaking out about my dog. But he wasn't acting weird in any way or anything. So I Googled it, and it was an allergic reaction to, like, a mosquito, not a mosquito, but some kind of a fly.
Oh, okay.
Like a black fly. But they weren't raised. It was just all discolored. And I gave him Benadryl, and he was okay. But I almost, oh, my God. I almost killed myself trying not to kill my dog the other day. If he's not trying to kill himself, he's trying to kill me. So he's running. I'm like, Lucky, do you need to go out? And I'm like, it's before I'm like headed to work. So I'm kind of in a rush. And he runs out and I open the slider and he stops dead. I'm like, I've already got 1 foot.
Oh, no, you're already,
I already have
no.
1 foot out the door over him. He stops dead. I got no place to go. I had to throw myself because I was going to kill the dog if I landed on him. And then I'm laying on the ground and he's just looking at me like, what are you doing? What's going on?
Why did you
why
fall
are you down
like
there?
that?
And I'm on the ground like, okay, what did I hurt? I'm like, okay, my wrist hurts. I think I sprained my thumb. But I pretty much unscathed considering the circumstances. But he just stopped dead, and I was already like, and then when I went to like sort of avoid him, my heel got stuck on the thing for the slider, the little runner there. My heel got stuck on that. If he's not trying to kill himself, he's trying to kill me. It's been a week. I didn't get to see you last week.
I didn't
we didn't
do
have
last
a show.
week, no.
Because I had a fundraiser. Was that it? Did I have a fundraiser?
You had a
last week?
fundraiser, and I ended up staying late in Derry, but I called it way earlier just because the day was too nuts. So we missed Easter week.
Oh. Did you have a nice Easter?
I did. It was really calm. It was really nice. And then obviously the big thing that happened right after that is that the Pope died.
Oh, yeah.
So the Pope died, and
Very
then
next day.
yeah, Easter morning, very early on Easter morning, and
The very next day after he met with Vance.
he met with Vance. Yep. And then world leaders from all over came to the funeral.
Can we just talk about something?
Yeah.
That's so ridiculous. Like half the world is on fire because Trump wore a blue suit to the funeral.
But so many men wore blue suits. If you zoomed out,
Not
and
only
then they
did
showed
so
that,
many
yeah.
men wear blue suits, but there are a bunch of men from the Arab countries that wore white veils, the white headdresses, right? And no one said anything about that, right? But so many people were wearing blue and gray, and they're perfectly acceptable. And why people flipped out, at least look it up before you flip out. They're like, he is a national embarrassment. Please do your homework.
So my favorite,
Some people just want to hate him. They just want to
hate him. So obviously, Zelensky was there. The French. So Trump actually was next to the French Prime Minister. That's where he was at. So the original, if you look at the meeting that happened, Macron had set up 3 chairs, and so the first time I saw a picture, it was like one of the
You need to back up,
bishops.
Brittany, because you're jumping in again.
No, so the first picture I'd seen of this
Right.
beautiful
So-
tete-a-tete that
So
had happened.
people were like, watching it and,
Yeah.
and posting in real time saying, oh, I bet Trump is really mad because Zelensky's there. He's going to cause a problem because Zelensky
yeah.
is there. So what happened was, now we go into Brittany's story, there was a little meeting.
Right. So it looks like the French Prime Minister tried to set up a meeting, and so it set up with 3 chairs. And so the very first picture that came out with Trump and Zelensky, you kind of see a bishop like moving a chair, and I was like, oh, that's weird that they kind of like, did they go just like off into a corner? No, Trump stopped Macron from coming into the conversation, and he and Zelensky had a one-on-one.
And we've got a picture of that,
Yeah.
Trump and Zelensky.
Just like, what a message of hope right there. Like, you know, this is the
Yep.
last time that they met, it was not a good parting. So
no, and they're both leaning in, which is, you know,
yeah, the body language.
body language
yeah.
is positive there. They're listening to each other. They're talking. So hopefully, but, you know, just to back that up a little bit, Trump had a deal with Zelensky.
He did.
And Zelensky
was,
backed
yeah.
out. And he backed out
And
when he
blew it
knew
up.
he had the cameras
Yeah.
on him and made a terrible scene. And for any American that was like, oh, Trump and fans shouldn't have treated him that way. These people don't like us as a nation. I don't know if people realize how much we are not liked.
Liked
And
by
it's not,
Europeans, yeah.
doesn't matter who the president is. It's not our leadership that isn't liked. They do not like us because we are a powerful nation and we have a loud world voice, and they don't like it. When I traveled, everyone thought here Bill Clinton was, traveled during that time to Europe. They thought he was a joke. They thought he was an absolute joke, especially in Europe. Like, they said he didn't even have the sense not to get caught cheating on his wife. Like, they actually thought he was a joke. And with Biden, forget about it. Everyone thought that that was a total disaster for the nation. People around the world were concerned because we looked so weak.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a double-edged sword. They want us strong, but then they hate us for being strong.
So we just hit. So I just want to do like the high level national stuff because we've got a lot to talk at the stage.
I know.
So,
So
like
that was a very promising
that
meeting
was,
with two
you know, some people are like that's Francis's first miracle. My favorite was a meme where it's like Trump going, "You gotta say 3 Hail Marys. They'll be your best Hail Marys." Anyway.
But that is true. Like, funerals are a weird thing because either they can cause a ton of division or a ton of healing.
Yeah,
Right.
and so hopefully we'll see that. So Trump's first 100 days in office for his second term just lapsed. He brought ABC News in to interview
Yeah,
him.
we've got a picture of Trump's 100.
Yeah. She says.
I do. Full interview.
Yeah.
President Trump, the first 100 days. The interview in the Oval Office.
So
So this was interesting. Go ahead. It was
I
interesting.
ended up reading the transcript and I got pretty far into it before I had to move on because today was nuts.
It was so hard for the person interviewing him to admit that he has accomplished things that he said he was going to
Yeah.
do, right? So hard, like watching him struggle, and then he'd be like, well, I mean, there's no denying you cut down on border crossings, but the way you did it, that's not what people voted for. It's like, that's exactly
That's exactly what they
voted
did. They
for.
wanted it safe.
And then he said something about, you can't, do you have complete confidence in
And
what?
Pete Hegg said
and Pete
100%
Hegg said-
confidence. He goes,
And he-
I don't have 100% confidence in anything.
I don't even have 100% confidence that we will finish this interview.
And he
I
said,
was
we
like,
will. Oh, it's
that
so
was
good.
so great. Speaking of which, speaking of the news, I don't have this, but I did an interview with NHPR
Okay.
about something that was happening with the there's a big pushback. The House part of the budget unfunded the Office of Child Advocate, which is something that Sununu put in because there was such an outcry for people for something to oversee DCYF, and this is the agency that oversees DCYF. However, the person running it has made some errors in judgment that we discussed. I talked to her about it. We discussed it on the Oversight Commission, where she's lobbying for certain positions in the legislature that really aren't part of what the office should be doing, right?
If the office is to oversee DCYF, then she should only be concerned about
and
DCYF
systems.
reform.
And she's come
Yeah.
out and she's testified against the Parental Bill of Rights. She did a whole press conference where she spoke about girls and boys sports. And when we were at the commission meeting, she said, well, I said, she handed us her annual report, 27 pages. The first 25 pages are great things that the office is doing. And then page 26 was a picture of her at the podium with the
trans
girls
activist,
sports
yeah.
stuff behind her, right? And a whole paragraph about how she stood up for LGBT rights and everything else. And I said, you know that, like, when I'm getting calls to support you being defunded, the office being defunded, it's because you're taking a stand on controversial things like this, right?
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's my job to protect all children. I said, okay, so here's the problem. Half, not even half, in this state, it's like 26% of people believe that you are speaking to protect transgender youth.
Yeah.
The rest of the state believes that you are endangering biological girls.
Yeah.
So do you see the division? You might think you're standing up for children, but these people think they're standing up for children too. This isn't part of what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So we discussed as a committee, like as a commission, usually agencies don't take positions on bills. They will say, we do not take a position. However, the wording of this piece is problematic because it contradicts this, so it'll bring up things that need to be looked at, addressed, but they don't take positions on it. So New Hampshire Public Radio called me up, Anne Marie Timmons, who will never get another interview from me, called me up pretending like she was talking to me, and we had a conversation. She said, so, do you think you had some clarity? I said, Cassandra came up and talked to me afterward. We had a great conversation. I think we just need to, really just define sort of what topics she's going to go to the legislature for. I said, and I called Kim Rice, Representative Kim Rice. She's on my committee. I said, I think they're probably going to call you. So they talked to her, Sharon Carson, a couple other people. And then they headlined it that we told her not to discuss LGBT, and that was not the case. It was not LGBT stuff. It was, in general, stay away from divisive, hot topic subjects. You really don't need to testify on issues. You only need to testify on policy.
Yeah.
Right? That's all that you're supposed to. That's what all any agency does. As a private citizen, testify on anything you want to, but not as the person who's leading up the Office of Child Advocate. Did my phone shut off?
It's dead.
Oh. So that was a problem, and NPR took it and took the headline and made it something totally different than it was. So when you're looking at these interviews and Trump is like, I don't trust you, we're not going to do it.
Same thing, right? So I read it, which was great. And he says, do you want peace in Ukraine? And Trump's like, yeah. And they're like, do you think Russia wants peace? And he was like, I don't know. I think that Putin wants peace. But Putin did this. And he's like, yeah, I said he shouldn't be shooting civilians with missiles. And they said, do you trust Putin? He said, I don't trust you. Of course I don't trust Putin.
Right.
I don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
It is crazy to see kind of in real time, right? An experience in real time, just the misleading.
Awful.
Yeah.
Speaking of misleading, we got New Hampshire Dems. They want to say that we're the mean girls, and they're going to be like the people that are. What's the word they use for?
Oh, this one. I thought this one was funny. Actually, I thought this was a compliment to Joe.
Wow.
JD Vance from Timu.
This is their communications person, and this is what they're doing. How is this How is this a compliment to Joe? It's just mean. And what was they were saying that they were Tim Waltz. It was like bringing something forward. Not kindness, but something else.
I don't know.
And this is the party of kindness. That's what they do.
I thought it was silly and funny.
They're just
That
stupid.
shows our JD Vance.
Chris Pappas has come out on his platform to say what he is running for. He's running for the Equality Act.
Under the law.
So full equality under the law, nothing.
They don't have any protections. They've gone without the same legal protections as everyone else.
Which they already have, because there's been anti-discrimination laws on the books for a very long time.
Yeah.
What he's trying to do is let boys be in girls' sports, and I don't know if he's polled how unpopular that is in New Hampshire, but it is extremely unpopular. But they double down, Chris. Go ahead, Congressman. Double down on that.
down.
Please do. Then I had quite a busy weekend.
You stirred some stuff up.
I did stress.
You might even say that you stirred up some divisive concepts that definitely aren't being taught in the Manchester School District.
Definitely not being taught.
Definitely not.
So I had this wheel of power and privilege sent to me over the weekend. Now you see that they're circled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things are circled. A child answered this. So this was sent out to, this was an exercise given to 8th graders at McLaughlin Middle School. And the reason it came to me was because after this exercise was put out and children were understandably upset, the parents went to the school and they were they're dismissed. Their concerns were completely dismissed by this. And if you look at it, you can see the outer circle, you can't really see it. That's just the categories, right? And then the first inner circle is most marginalized, and then marginalized and most power. And if you follow the circle around, it's like, so most marginalized if you've got dark skin, most power if you're white. And it goes around in this circle. And I will tell you, Brittany, so first of all, my conversations about this on Twitter and Facebook were so different from one another.
My favorite was somebody was like, I did this in 8th grade survey too. And so I looked at like when the Power Wheel, and it's like the late 80s. It was kind of, but it didn't get really picked up until the early
it started
aughts.
in England.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was the interactions on Twitter were very much like, who would put this into a child's head? Da, da, da. The interactions on Facebook, I was shocked, okay, because I feel like we're pretty equal in society. What shocked me was the amount of white people that commented that said, yes, they've brought up their children to understand that they've got white privilege, and that's how they use that to help the other people. So I'm like, oh my God, racism is so real that I didn't realize it. But it's the anti-racists that think that they're not racist that are actually the racists. Putting this on your child and saying, yes, you've got privilege and power over people because of their skin color, because their skin
You
color.
are more powerful. So isn't that teaching?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that like teaching a child that they are inferior or superior?
100%. And not only that, the other pages that went along with this were like the myth that if you work really hard, you can succeed.
Yeah, the meritocracy.
The myth, right?
The myth of meritocracy.
Then it talked about the stereotypes, and it listed the stereotypes. Like, these are not my words, so please. This is in the paperwork. It said, someone says black people are loud. So the child should say is, well, why do you think black? Like, these are stereotypes. All Asians are good at math. These are the stereotypes that are in there. Women are emotional.
Yeah.
They're putting these stereotypes into the children's minds that they're not there. And that was the point the parents were trying to make. Like, their kids hang out in a multicultural society. Manchester is multicultural. And these kids just play and they get along, and kids usually treat each other based on how they're treated, right? And that when they did this, none of the kids knew how to react to each other after.
No.
Horrible, horrible. And then come to find out when it got, first of all, Jen Gillis, who's the superintendent of schools again, Shamel, whatever, tried to say that, because I said, you violated state law, this is a non-academic survey, and she tried to say it's not a survey. Well, you've got a wheel there with listing things and telling a child to circle the things. Not to mention, can you imagine being the child in the classroom who is dark-skinned, and you're circling this, and it tells you that, like, you're marginalized. You just don't have as much ability as other people.
You're overweight, dark-skinned
Oh yeah,
child.
body type. So a girl in the class, she's got to, what is your body type? Small, large, obese. She's got to circle that, right? All these kids, do you speak English as a first language? Like, just pulling out these kids, things that they probably don't think about, or sometimes body image is really hard for girls, especially that age, that she's now got to...
body image is really hard. I mean, I have an 8-year-old body image is hard.
Awful. And then I had an NEA New Hampshire, which is the Teachers Association, New Hampshire Education Association director, that came at me on a different. It happened to be over the weekend, but it was based on the thing that I put up about the teachers union representative that said, if you don't like public schools, get your kids out of public schools, like make a different choice. That would be universal EFAs, which is gonna pass. So underneath that, he wrote, what she's saying is, we don't have to educate your antisocial, disruptive a-hole of a child because they're yours. Like, he attacked my child. Yeah. First of all, my child is now 18, so say it to his face. But like, this is what the Children's Union thinks, right? They can just attack you and the student.
Yeah.
Because you disagreed. But that was an exact example of why I pulled my kids out of public school. Because I was an advocate for education freedom, and they were being targeted by teachers. Yeah. So thank you for proving my point as to why we need education freedom, Mr. New Hampshire Education Association guy. What was his name? Peter Miller. But the irony of all of this is the number of minority families that reached out to me privately and said, "Thank you for standing up. I was mortified to see this. I can't believe they put my child in that position."
Right.
You know, my child was. I had one parent say my child was embarrassed and ashamed when they filled it out, and they were a child that was brown skinned. You know, I had adults, minority that would be considered minorities, reach out to me and say, "I can't believe this is happening. Thank you for standing up, because I don't want my child to ever feel like they're marginalized or they're
And they
less
thought
than."
this is an appropriate thing to do. So this is because there's a requirement that every student be taught about the Holocaust.
Right.
And so this was a social studies class that did this survey in relation to the Holocaust to teach the children.
There was nothing on here about being Jewish.
Like,
There was nothing to do with the Holocaust. And here's the thing. When word got out, they started to scramble and they sent out an email.
the not DEI guy.
They sent out an email that said, this was supposed to be a teacher training. It wasn't supposed to be given to students, so please don't share it. They were scrambling. Do you want your teachers looking at your children this way? Math, English language arts in our district, 29% of kids have proficiency in English language
I
arts.
don't even think it's that high.
19, this is overall, so this isn't counting the lowest, like, some of the schools that perform so much lower than this. Math, 19% of kids are proficient in math, and 15% are proficient in science. So professional development days are supposed to be days that teachers use to get better outcomes for students. Instead, they're using them for DEI. Your taxpayer dollars pay teachers for a day to go take this course, pay an instructor or a facilitator in this course, and pay for the materials. Then the teacher thought it'd be a good idea to bring it back and put this
They
on
just
children.
learned so much about it that they were like, do you know what the Holocaust screams to me? Telling children that they are inferior or superior to each other. You're
Yeah.
just creating the thing that you've been trying.
And then the word inherent. Yeah. People kept saying on Facebook, well, this is inherently the way that it is. If you are raising your child and you look at your child and you think that they are inherently racist, you're doing something very wrong. That's on you. That's not on every other kid. And you don't put that on. Telling a child that they are less than, that they are marginalized, that they are not as important as that, they don't have as much value. And then telling and likewise, right? So you've got a kid who happens to be white, who's living in addiction, who, who's up against a lot, telling them that what they're going through doesn't matter because of their skin color, they're just fine. They're just fine.
They're just fine.
And then, then you've got like the black family who's living in a 2-family household who's affluent, and you're saying, I don't care how well your parents have done for you and all the things they're
You're still
they're providing you.
dark-skinned.
You don't have you don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Horrible. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that happened in our
Well,
district.
and here's the thing is they're like, well, we don't even know. Like, what do you mean we can't teach divisive concepts? Like, it's so...
So, and here's the thing, this is what I
Yeah.
told the family too when I spoke with them. They said, I don't understand why they weren't concerned. I said, because this is their belief system. They believe
Yeah.
that children think this way. They believe that these kids are marginalized because of their skin color. They believe that white kids have a leg up. This is their own prejudice that they believe in. So when you were concerned about it and said, I don't understand why you would think that kids should be put into these little pockets, they were like, I don't understand why you don't think that we're teaching them to be better people. I mean, that's what people commented. We're teaching them to be kinder, better people. Are you? How?
Right.
How? Because, my kids have, I'm sure yours do too, have kids from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Rich, poor, black, white, in the middle, doesn't matter until adults force this stuff on them.
Right.
It was my whole weekend. It was my whole weekend.
It's your whole weekend.
Fielding calls and messages about this. So many people were really, really upset about seeing this put on children. And, again, Manchester School District, your proficiency scores are in the tank, and this is what you're spending money on. And you want more money. You want more money.
Yeah.
I talked to the mayor about it too. Like, we should not give them money until we see outcomes. And I did a right to know request to see where the professional development money is being spent and on what courses it's being spent on.
Yeah.
So when I get that, I will let you know. I will say Andrew Toland at the school district is very responsive. He's very good. So I'm sure I'll get those as soon as he has them.
The thing is, our school district is great. I mean, this is the thing. Like, we just have to focus on all of these things because it's fringe, right? We really just want the focus to turn where it needs to go, which
I
is
would
on
love-
educating the children, not on the buildings, not on the number of administrators that need to be let go as part of, you know, right sizing the school district's budget, right?
Yeah, and when I talked to the mayor about this, I also put back in, we don't need to have a mega.
Elementary school.
mega elementary school.
$82 million, 730 kid elementary school.
You're gonna have more kids
On
that are
Beach
failing
Street,
and falling
Where
between the
everyone's
cracks.
going to have to cross the street to park. This is going to be a disaster.
Yeah, and you want less children in the buildings to provide a better education, not more children that are gonna get lost in.
But they're not going to be in a
process.
basement.
Listen,
The other three can be in basements because no, we're gonna have more mega element. We're gonna have more. This is just what's gonna happen. Jay's gonna win again, and he's gonna have a tiny Republican board because this is what they've done. Not the Republicans, but this is the decisions that Jay's made, the decisions that the Dems have made.
so I know that people.
I'm absolutely bearish on Manchester right now, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that anyone who's pissed off to hear me say that is ready to go knock some doors and fight.
We need a new school board for certain.
We need to keep the Board of Mayor and Aldermen as strong as we
Chrissy
can.
Cantor is running against Jay.
Yeah.
And for all the right reasons.
Yeah, so I hope we
So-
get a good budget set forth that actually speaks to what the taxpayers want, which is relief. We have the assessments going. If you're watching houses being sold right now, I'm telling you that I'm seeing insurance companies come in on real rebuild costs for these multifamilies. So a 4-family came back at $4 million. A 3-family came back at $1.2 million. So what do you think is going to happen to rents? No one is voting on this at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. No one's raising those property taxes, Pat Long. This isn't being done by that board. The market is moving rents because the cost of housing, and listen, the Republican Party is also imploding right now on all the housing reform in the
So we
state
just had a
house.
meeting about this today on Ways
Yeah.
and Means, and we are like so far behind on housing compared to other
Oh, yeah.
places. We are down 60% in inventory, and that's not that we're down necessarily. Like we have an increase in inventory. We have a big
Yeah.
increase in inventory, but so many people want to move here, and that's the problem. And so we've got these zoning
And we
bills.
need people to move here because we are not making enough babies. We are very old in our age.
We also don't
This
have
estate.
places for the elderly to move into to free
Correct.
up homes for families that
Yeah.
want to move up here. So people are upset about the zoning bills that we're doing on the state level, but we don't have a choice because the
Nothing is. I mean,
We
if you,
don't have a
And you don't
choice.
have to pass. Somebody's like, you don't have to pass every single one of them. But the point is, we need to start making Republican zoning reform efforts because we're gonna.
Well, here's
if we
the
get
thing.
the Dem ones, guess what it's gonna be?
I think the
all at
message
my expense.
to these towns that are digging their heels in is you need to change some zoning and get some houses built, or the state is going to come in because we don't have a choice. Like our job is to keep the states like
yeah,
so-
equal.
equal, right? We have to make sure that we have longevity in the state. And right now, we don't have new people, like young people coming in here to work, to have the tech jobs that are coming in down here. We don't have places for young families. A friend of mine his daughter tried to get a house. The house was on the market for a week. They got $125,000 over the asking price of the house. When I moved here, houses were $125,000. But this is where we're at, so we have to do something drastic, and we're getting the sign to close. All right, thank you very much.
Have a good week.
Remember,
Until then, walk right with
With
courage.
courage.